Good afternoon. It's McCollum on Business. I'm Stephen McCollum, and for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to get you updated on what's happening around the business world. And not a lot of information today with the government shutdown, no reporting coming out. We'll talk about that coming up here today. But, it's Friday as well. We'll look at the stocks we're paying attention to, plus local and national stories that you need to know going into the weekend. And the Trump administration sending some letters to about 9 colleges. We have that story coming up and little preview for you. One of them's here in Arizona as well, basically demanding what they do moving forward here with some practices. We'll talk about that coming up, of course. And with all that, in Friday, all this edition going on, big weekend coming up, government shutdown, no end in sight on that as of this moment. Let's get into that Market Watch. Look, everything's rallying this week, even though you do see some red on your screen there. Dow Jones is definitely rallying today. It was up about 500 points earlier today. Well, it's at 301 points right now, 46,825 for the Dow. While the S&P is basically flat, 0.80 down right now, 67.15 for the S&P 500. The NASDAQ down 88 points here. 22,751 for the NASDAQ. And, of course, NASDAQ's tech-heavy, right, from that perspective. The small cap index, the Russell 2K, up 18 points here today to 2479. And then Bitcoin, what a climb this week for Bitcoin. Started the week at 109 after the weekend, trading at 122,092 as of right now. So what a recovery for Bitcoin, if you want to call it that, as it continues to go up here. So this shows investors originally in the week when the government did shut down on Wednesday, investors thought it would be a short shutdown. So they were betting on that side, which kind of rallied the market. Well, now they're just ignoring the market, the government shutdown right now. They're ignoring it. They're looking past those fears of a government shutdown, and the market continues to rally as we talk about that here as well. The wealth of the top 1% of Americans, it reaches a record $52 trillion as of now. A lot of that has to do, obviously, with the run-up here on the stock market that we've seen as well here, basically all year moving forward as well. So other news out there before we get to stocks we're paying to that are just hitting you. Berkshire Hathaway, they're voting to separate chairman and the CEO roles. Right now, of course, Warren Buffett is both of those roles, has been for a long time with this company. Well, they're splitting those up, which is basically just paving the way for his successor, a gentleman named Mr. Abel, to take over the company. Obviously, Warren Buffett in his 90s here, 93 years old, so his time is coming to an end, unfortunately. But that news is hitting right now for Berkshire Hathaway and stocks that we are paying attention to where we got graphs for you. The first one, SanDisk. This is, of course, solid-state drives. They do the SDI, the SD disk and things to that effect. Well, they're up 2.84% right now for them. They were up over 10% earlier today, so we're seeing a little bit of a sell-off as the day goes on here. And this is what's interesting about this company. Well, if you look at the macro here, I went back to the beginning of the year, and it's up, but not an impressive up. If you just look at the last 6 months of this stock, it's up 170% in the last 6 months alone here for SanDisk Corporation off of this year. So obviously catching some investors' eyes here with these massive gains that they've been having over these last 6 months there. And next up, USA Rare Earth is a stock we're going to look at. We've talked about MP Materials. We've talked about the one out of Nevada here as well in terms of those rare earth stocks. Well, this one's up 12.59% here today. Well, they do rare earth mining, etc. Well, it's up big today because their CEO, her name is Barbara Humpton. She came out and told CNBC that the company is in, quote, close communication, unquote, with the White House. Leading, obviously, to speculation, White House might get some equity stake in this company like they have MP Materials. And, of course, Lithium Americas that we've talked about a lot here lately as well. So Big run up here on USA Rare Earth Company, and then GameStop, that meme stock we pay attention to from time to time here as well. Well, they're down today, 3.53% right now. They did an SEC filing, and they said it's selling a combination of assets ranging from common stock, and then they're going to also sell some debt out there as well. They did not declare the amount they're selling it for, but GameStop getting rid of some, common stock, and basically issuing more common stock and debt as well, selling that. Well, markets generally don't like that. It basically cuts down the equity of those that invest in this company already. So 3.75% down for GameStop here today based off of that news. Before we get into kind of just an update on where we stand on the government side, stocks we'll look to when we come back for the last time here on this Friday and do our market watch. We'll look at Zillow again, Palantir Technologies, and then the local mining company we've been a lot of paying attention to lately, Freeport McMoran, we'll look back at as well coming up. And now kind of the update here on the government side of things with the shutdown in its third day. And basically, we told you all week, the government shutdown means no information being released, in terms of the government reporting, which means no non-farm payroll reporting here today. We saw the private ones here earlier in the week, and that is a disappointment here because, well, everybody wants to know how the September numbers were for the non-farm payrolls. It's going to be delayed, obviously, with this deal. So the big interruption in the government data that comes out here to the market time, and this is a big deal because of the times that we're living in. The Fed's deciding, should we keep lowering rates? Do we keep the rates up? The market, consumer sentiment all flowing at this time. So this is a peculiar time here to not get this reporting that we're expecting out there. And policymakers at the Federal Reserve and Wall Street investors, are relying on this data right now to kind of gauge where our economy is and their expectations of companies and the market. So you would rather have more information right now than less information. We know that hiring has basically come to a standstill over the last several months. And that hiring freeze, the non-hiring, well, it's threatening to drag down the bigger part of the economy, which is where we got that quarter-point rate hike last month as well. But also consumers, they're still spending, especially higher-end consumers are still spending. A lot of the middle class and lower middle class have been cutting back for a while now. And the interesting side is businesses are ramping up investments in those data centers and pouring billions of dollars into that, obviously around the artificial intelligence models. But other businesses are pulling back in terms of their spending, hiring, inventory, etc., because of the tariffs. So we're just kind of in an unknown state and not getting these government reports like they're expected. Well, that's a negative here and might cause some reflection here on where we stand in terms of the stock market and the Federal Reserve and the points and the reserve and the monetary policy that we're currently in right now as well. So I went back and looked, and it's the first time since the government shutdown back in 2013 that we have not got the jobs report, and it's been delayed. During the 2018-2019 government closure, that was more of a partial one. The Labor Department was one of many agencies that did remain open because Congress had agreed to fund them during that partial shutdown. So you got to go back to 2013 here for the last time we had these types of delays. September job figures, well, they'll eventually be released. We're talking about the non-farm payroll. They'll eventually come out. Once the shutdown ends, we just have to be patient for it to come out. It's going to be interesting to see how the markets, it's going to be interesting to see how investors and even the Fed kind of, think about the delay in these reports coming out. So there's no other update on the government shutdown as of right now. It's just both sides still posturing, both sides trying to put the blame on the other side. And I think we're going to see it through the weekend. It's going to be through the weekend and into next week before maybe we start to see somebody blinking a little bit as we go forward. And the other big news out there, the quarter-point rate cut last week, people saw mortgages start to lower before that rate cut happened. Well, it's actually the opposite's happening since that rate cut. Mortgage rates, they've actually climbed for the second straight week. And if it wasn't the expectation, it was going to climb either after that interest rate cut that happened last year. So there's a lot of factors and there's a lot of issues here in terms of mortgages and what goes into them. It's not obviously it's not just the rate cut that goes into the mortgages here. Freddie Mac reported yesterday that the average rate on a benchmark 30-year fixed mortgage, well, it rose 6.34%. That's up from 6.3% last week, which was also a rising week. If you want to go back to a year ago, the rate averaged 6.12% at that time a year ago. So we're still an elevated number here going into this uncertain times that we're dealing with here in the market. When lenders do set mortgage rates, they look to broader market forces to do so. So that includes obviously the 10-year Treasury yield is what it mainly follows there. But they also look at the price of mortgage-backed securities as well to set that rate. Bank Rate has a big study on what goes into setting a mortgage rate here by the banks. Mortgage rates are shaped by the economy, inflation, government policies, but also global events affecting mortgage rates as well. You guys know that a borrower's credit score, the down payment size, debt to income ratio, what kind of property you're buying, then just what kind of loan are you looking for. We know those also affect mortgage rates once they're set there at those levels. But the overall macro of this is leading to these mortgage rates climbing over the last couple of weeks. So if you were anticipating a lower mortgage rate, well, the opportunity was a couple weeks ago when we saw it drop down to that below 6.3%, is that it's slowly ticking up now here in this economy. So keep your eyes on that, whether you're looking to refinance or looking to get a property out there finally at this time frame. Now let's go to a story. It's kind of died off a little bit, but I was looking into Cracker Barrel and what the fallout was of them over the last, with the missteps they had in August. We're a month away from that. They backed off of everything and put everything back to quote unquote the way it was, right? Including their biscuits being made in-house again. Well, Cracker Barrel is ending its partnership with Profit. Profit is a consulting firm, and they were the ones hired to rebrand and this whole Cracker Barrel issue that happened here in August. Well, they're finally getting rid of that company, as that obviously was a huge failure in the eyes of consumers and investors out there. As you know, Cracker Barrel faced intense backlash after unveiling that new logo, and then the redesign of the stores as well. That, quite frankly, it was an insult to a longtime fans. They said they stripped away what they loved most about the brand and the remodel and the rebranding out there. And marketing firms are to improve your brand, not destroy them, which is what Profit had done there. Cracker Barrel restaurants, as you know, they're long known for their American decor inside, kind of a cluttered look as well. Well, they recast it in the style that a lot of people call drab, soulless, unimaginative, hospital-like. That was my favorite one, hospital-like. The uproar kept growing and growing, and the company dropped that iconic logo of the elderly man leaning on the barrel, which we actually found out his name during this process as well. That March press release did say Profit was hired to redesign Cracker Barrel restaurants and lead a new brand marketing campaign for Cracker Barrel. Well, they rebranded it, and they brought a new one on. It just didn't work out as well. If you look back at that time frame, Cracker Barrel came out in a press release, and they said, quote, in collaboration with Cracker Barrel, Profit put this statement out that in collaboration with Cracker Barrel, they are focused on shaping a brand new vision that will help enhance market share while preserving the company's unique heritage. The new strategy will inform brand communication, restaurant redesigns, brand marketing campaigns, and even a redefined employee value proposition, unquote. Well, Profit came out with that statement, and they did none of that, by the way, leading into this process. Then in August, as you know, they unveiled that new logo. It dropped the illustration of the old man leaning on the barrel. And it's like I said, we learned his name. I never knew he had a name. I just called him the dude, right? Well, his name is Uncle Herschel, of all things. That he was taken out of it. He wasn't resting his arm on top of that wooden barrel as well. And that was a folksy image that people related to Cracker Barrel as that down-home Southern hospitality restaurant since its inception. And he wasn't in the initial logo back when Cracker Barrel started, by the way, but he's been there for that 56 years beforehand. As you all can remember, the change sparked backlash. Here's the deal, right? Profit cost Cracker Barrel $140 million off of Cracker Barrel's market value at the height of that crisis happening. And customers were outraged. Investors, and their unease in the rebranding and people not going to the restaurants pulled money out as well. It was the steepest losing streak in months for Cracker Barrel. And even then, they haven't fully recovered. Shares are actually down over 7% year to date for Cracker Barrel as well. So they're getting rid of that company that kind of led the marketing campaign. Now, I'll say this. You hire a marketing campaign to do the work, but you can say no as a company. So Cracker Barrel's still to blame by letting them do the rebrand, letting them do all that stuff, and then going along with it. Nobody said no to the process. So Cracker Barrel's still at fault, but obviously you move on from that marketing company that also created the failure. And quite frankly, they probably did what they were told to do. Let's be honest about it, right? Hey, some news here. If you're older and you wait for your Social Security, your parents are at that age and they're getting ready to retire or they're waiting to find out what their Social Security numbers are, etc. And this is the time of year that everybody kind of sits around and waits for this month, October, to find out how much their monthly Social Security checks will increase next year. Well, this year, unfortunately, it ain't coming out here at the beginning of October. You might have to wait till whenever the government decides to stop being shut down. The Social Security Administration planned to announce COLA adjustments. Those are those cost of living adjustments for 2026. They wanted to do it on October 15th. That's when the Bureau of Labor Statistics was slated to release the September inflation report numbers. But because of the shutdown, we all know those reports aren't coming out. It's October 3rd now, so there still might be a chance here coming up, but watch the numbers here if you're waiting for that 2026 number to go out and buy new things with your increase, right? But one of the boroughs, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 2,055 employees, all but one of them have been furloughed with this government shutdown. So obviously one man's going to have a hard time putting all those numbers out and everything. So it's going to be delayed out there. Scheduled releases of those economic data by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, including the consumer inflation report, is all going to be delayed. And then now the question is, when the government shutdown ends, how long will it take to get those reports out once everybody gets back to work, right? So even if it ended here in the next week or so, might take a couple weeks to get everybody back in, get the reports out, etc. So basically, you have to wait a little bit longer probably for that COLA adjustment there on your Social Security side. Annual COLA is based on the average annual increases in the Consumer Price Index, and that's from urban wage earners and clerical workers from July through September as the numbers that you need for that COLA adjustments. It is important to note, though, that while the COLA announcement may be delayed with this government shutdown, monthly Social Security payments, they're going to continue to come to you. You're just not going to hear your increase amount starting in January of 2026. Payments are still coming, folks. Social Security benefits have a permanent funding source, so they aren't affected by Congress's annual budgeting process or annual failure to budget process that we go through here with Congress and our fortunately federal government out there. The last and only time, by the way, the annual COLA was delayed, well, that was October of 2013. If you notice a trend here in all of our stories on delays and reporting and stuff, 2013 was the time it happened for the first time. And maybe this year as well. But as of now, not delayed too much yet here as well. Then 2013 was the last time the government shut down and all these agencies closed. Back then in 2013, they obviously closed October 1st, just like this year. There was a 16-day closure in 2013 as well. A lot of that was based around the funding for that Affordable Care Act, which that's going through the roof this year as well. The September CPI report was due on October 16th, or is due. Back then in 2013, it was October 16th of 2013. But when they came back on that, that was a 16-day delay. They actually got it out October 30th at that time there. So it was basically a 15-day from when the government got back in. So look for that this year when the government shutdown does end. Probably a 15-day window if we look at 2013 in the past on when to expect those government reports to start coming out. By the way, back in 2013, that delay, October 30th is when it came out instead. They had a 1.5% annual COLA increase for 2014 that was announced at that time. So maybe some of the 2013 stuff coming back here and affecting us here this year as well. But history might give us an idea of what to look at if you're looking forward to those numbers. And you know what I'm looking forward to? Well, this break and then coming back and doing another Market Watch, getting you set up for the weekend with the Market Watch, stocks we're paying attention to, and then some local stories out there. A university here in Arizona got a letter from the federal government along with 8 other universities. And then we have another name here for the arena that used to be known as America West Arena. It used to be known as Talking Stick Arena. Then it was the Footprint Center, and then it was PHX. I'm sure I'm missing a couple names here. New name for them as well there. We'll tell you about that. And more importantly, because it's the business side of things, what the cost was for that announcement there for the new naming rights. So come on back here, folks. It's Friday, and it's McCollum on Business. And right there, you just saw, of course, a commercial for the pit stop. The Look Ahead show is up. We recorded that yesterday, got that up here at Robat TV, of course. The free YouTube page as well, it's there. And then it has a free podcast for those of you that like to rather listen to it than pay attention to it and watch it out there on Podbean only right now for the free podcast. At the Pit Stop Talk is where you can find that on Podbean. And then on top of that, social media at the Pit Stop Talk as well on X if you want to follow that for the racing tweets, etc. as the races go on and the happenings throughout the week. We'll be back early next week, of course, for the Look Back show to 2 elimination races this weekend, Xfinity and Cup Series. We do a Look Back show early in the week, a Look Ahead show to racing coming up later in the week. All available now. Check it out if you like race-based programming out there. And, of course, you also saw the ad there for the main event. 17-year NFL veteran Dale Hellestray and me. Well, Monday through Friday, we get you set up on what's happening around the sports world. Today we talk some more Diamondbacks with their end of the season with Torey Lovello talking a little tough out there. And then, of course, football talk as we go into the college football weekend, high school days as well, and then the NFL weekend coming our way here this weekend. So that's up on demand on the YouTube page as well, free podcast system, anywhere for that one. Podbean, Spotify, Apple, Google, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you will find the main event there as well for you. And, of course, here on demand at Robat TV as well. It's up and for you to view. And then, of course, this show live at 11 o'clock every Monday through Friday, as long as markets are open. And as soon as we get done, no podcast version of this show, but it is up, Robat TV on demand, and on the free YouTube page as well is where you can find McCollum on Business for you as well. And then, folks, it is here. There is the Real Matrix. We have episodes up and running. They're here at Robat TV right now, the Real Matrix on the main page. The Angry Patriot gets you set up. He has some guests occasionally. One of them, Dale Hellestray, for the first couple episodes as well. Robat TV, it's up. And it's also got a free podcast, and that is coming up to you on the YouTube page as well. So YouTube will be up later on today, but Podbean is right now. It's just on Podbean in terms of the podcast version of it as well. Just search, of course, The Real Matrix. It'll pop up to you. We're just waiting for the market to come back with the links for Spotify, Google Fi, everything like that. YouTube will be up here later on Friday. It is available on Robat TV with subscriptions. The Real Matrix is here if you like that type of programming as well for you. And folks, with all that being said, it's Friday. Let's wrap up strong here. Middle of the day for us. Hopefully your workday's almost end, but let's get into our last market watch. Last market watch of the week here, and everything is pretty much where we left it before, right? Dow Jones is still up that 342 points. S&P 500's up 11. NASDAQ's the only one in the red here today. 88 points down for the NASDAQ right now. Russell 2K, 22 points up here as we are late in this trading day. And then Bitcoin, look at this, man. We came into last week, and I was looking at it last Sunday. 109,000 is what it was trading at, and it has gone up big throughout the week here, and it's trading right now at 122,630 is what Bitcoin is at here today. Man, what an increase. Now, will it stay at this level? It's been very volatile. Excuse me, as I got the hiccups all of a sudden. They've gotten very volatile here over the last several weeks, where it'll drop up to this level, come back down to 113, 112. Well, we'll keep our eyes on it and see if it stays up at this level or it does kind of come back on us. And stocks we're paying attention to right now as we wrap up this show, Zillow's the first one we're going to look at. Yeah, they're up 3.39% right now. Gordon Haskett, well, they came out and upgraded Zillow to buy. They had rated them at hold before, which, of course, is leaving Zillow up this 3.39% here today. Gordon Haskett is a Wall Street researcher, if you don't know the name or what he does out there. He said the recent sell-off is actually overdone. That creates an attractive buying opportunity for Zillow. People are taking advantage of it today with it being up this 3.35% right now. Zillow has been down in recent weeks, all around those concerns regarding competitive encroachment, but then also their legal problems that they've had recently. So at least one Wall Street researcher, Gordon Haskett, says Zillow is a buy right now based off of the overselling of that stock. So next up, we got Palantir Technologies and talk about the data analytics provider for the government, among other things, down today 7.66% for them. Reuters came out and they reported that an internal U.S. Army memo, well, they found quote-unquote deep flaws is what the memo stated it as, with a deep flaws in battlefield communication systems, including some made by Palantir Technologies and another company called Anduril out there as well. Well, it's never good if a U.S. Army memo says you have deep flaws in your battlefield communication system. That's driving Palantir Technologies down today, 7.74% right now. And let's end the week looking at Freeport-McMoRan, of course, local mining company, do a lot of copper mining here in the state of Arizona. Well, they're up today, 2.48%. We've been paying attention to this stock a lot over the last couple of weeks, and they also do gold mining as well besides copper, obviously here in Arizona. They're known for copper here. Well, they're up big today. UBS, that investment firm, upgraded Freeport to buy before they had them rated at neutral. Well, the UBS does say that it's been overly punished, well, because they declared force majeure there at that mine over there in Indonesia, causing the stock to fall for a lot of these years. That a deadly mudslide happened. At least one person died in that mudslide. And force majeure basically means that mine is done and shut down. So, it's a temporary halt of it. So you don't know when it's going to come back. Somebody died. Mudslides there. How long is it going to take to get back to the mining side of things out there? So, but UBS saying a little over punishment here on Freeport with that mine there in Indonesia. The exact quote from UBS is, quote, "We believe the market is pricing in an overly pessimistic outcome for the Grosberg recover," which is that mine in Indonesia. They went on to say, therefore, see the risk versus reward as attractive. On Freeport, McMoran up 2.57% here today from UBS, and their analysts liking that stock here and calling it a buy on the market here today. So interesting times there for Freeport McMoran, of course. And now let's get into some local stories. This is kind of a macro government story, but it also affects a university here in Arizona. The White House has declared and told us that they're asking 9 U.S. universities to sign an agreement pledging to uphold the Trump administration's higher education priorities. And if they don't do it, they risk losing out on preferred access to federal funding. Yeah, the demands are outlined in a 9-page document. The document's titled Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Education is what they titled it. It asks schools to freeze their tuition rate for 5 years, ban the use of sex and gender factors in their admission process, and even cap the international student numbers for these universities. There's some other requirements they put in there, but those are the big ones that everybody's kind of commenting on. Signatories also must commit to transforming or abolishing institutional units that purposely punish, belittle, or even spark violence against conservative ideas. It's also in the 9-page memo. According to a White House official, a letter outlining the plan and a copy of the agreement were sent on Wednesday to 9 universities, as I said. Brown University, Dartmouth College, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, so MIT, University of Pennsylvania, University of Southern California, University of Texas, University of Virginia, Vanderbilt University, and why is this in our local section? University of Arizona also got the letter as well here. A copy of the letter sent to the universities was obtained by CBS News, and CBS News notes that the schools that agree to the compact will receive, quote, allowance for increased overhead payments where feasible, substantial and meaningful federal grants, and other federal partnerships, unquote, in that letter, according to CBS News. The 9 schools, as I said, are asked to freeze tuition for 5 years, but also waive tuition for students pursuing, quote, hard science programs, if I can say it, at institutions where the endowment exceeds $2 million for undergraduate students. Schools would not have to freeze tuition for any students from families of exceptional means under the agreement there. So the administration there of the Trump administration is 9 schools. We don't know. The White House was asked, are this going to any other schools out there? Well, the question is out there. Nobody knows the answer to that. But at least in the initial 9, University of Arizona is included in that. And on your screen also, speaking of universities, well, that's the University of Phoenix building here in Phoenix. And the parent company of the University of Phoenix has filed for an initial public offering. We knew it was coming. They've talked about it for a while. We've told you about it here at McCollum on Business. Well, this now marks the organization's return to the stock market after they've been a private company for the last 8 years and not a public entity. Public Education Partners is the parent company. It plans to list its shares on the New York Stock Exchange. It's going to be under the ticker symbol PXED. Has an IPO of 4.2 million shares. They're going to be priced between $31 and $33 each, according to a regulatory filing that they filed on September 29th. The offering is expected to raise up to $140.3 million. So it's going to be at the midpoint of the proposed price range. If it hits that midpoint, Phoenix Education Partners would have a post-IPO valuation of $1.2 billion based on the 35.6 million outstanding shares of common stock in that entity. So the IPO is coming up here for the parent company of University of Phoenix. They're coming back to the stock market, and I just don't necessarily like the idea of, for-profit universities, but hey, they've had success before, coming back and trying it again out there. And we'll wrap up this McCollum on a Business Friday here, and appreciate you joining us as always with a little story about the arena downtown where the Suns play and the Mercury play. Of course, Mercury, They're in the WNBA Finals, and they kick it off tonight, 6 p.m. in Las Vegas. Of course, Friday and Sunday in Las Vegas. And then they come back here Wednesday and Friday next week here for playoff basketball, championship playoff basketball here in Phoenix as well. And, well, the owner of the Phoenix Suns and Mercury just sold the arena naming rights. It was known as, in this entity, as the PHX Arena for the last year or so. Well, it's been sold to a subsidiary of Matt Ishbia's own mortgage company, as the rights went to one of his companies out there. And the teams, Mercury and Suns, have announced that $115 million is what they're going to get in a 10-year naming rights partnership with United Wholesale Mortgage. That's the parent company there of the mortgage company and Matt Ishbia's main company out there. So 10-year deal. It'll rename the team's arena the Mortgage Matchup Center. I was joking around on X last night, and on the main event today, we're going to call it the Mort. The Mort. We're going to transform that into the morgue when the teams don't play well out there. Phoenix owns the arena. City official, those were not part of giving it a name for the third time in 6 years. Maybe this one will stick. On a side note, I do not like long names for buildings. I just don't. I think it's too long. Mortgage matchup. Yeah, we're just going to call it the Morgue. Morgue. Matt Ishbia obviously owns the Sons of Mercury, and he owns, the company that this deal is with as well. So they're all aligned, obviously, and hey, hashtag promote yourself if nobody else is going to as well. United Wholesale Mortgage is being investigated by the feds for deceptive mortgage practices, by the way. Matt Ishbia is 45-year-old. He took over as CEO in 2013 of the mortgage company, and he's transformed them into one of the top mortgage lenders throughout the United States. Mortgage Matchup is UWM's consumer-facing brand specifically, and that's what the arena is now going to be called. If they don't pay me, I don't have to call it that. It's better than Footprint, I think. I'll give it that. Nobody enjoyed Footprint, but I'll give them credit for this as we wrap up McCollum on Business today. They changed the name to the Footprint Center right in the middle of the NBA Finals when the Suns were up 2-0 last time in 2021. And I said that is the most awful thing you can do. You change something major. Suns went on to lose that Finals 4-2, and the Milwaukee Bucks ended up winning the title that year. I will give them credit. They aren't doing it in the middle of the Sun season. However, make note of this. Mercury start their title run here in the championship of the WNBA tonight in Las Vegas. He changed the name of it when the Mercury are about to get the finals. This is not a good sign for your Phoenix Mercury winning the title this year. I don't like it. It didn't work for the Suns. I don't like big changes like this going into it. Call me superstitious. Yeah, that's for the sports show coming up on Monday as well. If the Mercury come back to Phoenix down 0-2, we're blaming the naming rights of the arena. Folks, have a great weekend. Enjoy. It's cooling down there, folks. High of in the high 80s tomorrow as a high on Saturday. Folks, it is finally, summer's over for us. Hopefully, we'll see you on Monday, everybody, 11 o'clock here in McCollum on Business. Don't forget, everything's up on demand at Robat TV. Hit up on the YouTube page. Even if you aren't going to watch anything on YouTube, give us a like or subscribe there for us. Help us get us out in the zeitgeist. We haven't done any public advertising of it yet. People are already finding it, and we thank you very much out there. Same thing with the free podcast system as well. However you listen to podcasts, find the shows, and just give them a like. Don't forget the Real Matrix as well. See how you like that show and give us feedback on that for the Angry Patriot. We'll see you Monday, folks. Have a great weekend.